Okie doke.
All righty, let them all in. Hello, hello.
Hello.
I'm going to say a lot of shiny faces, but no one has their cameras on yet. Okay, there we
I say
go.
I have a lot of black boxes with
Yeah, a
white
lot of black
names.
glasses.
We like
Hey,
to see you.
Linda.
You get.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, Linda. Hi, Ginger.
Hi.
Good to see you
Hello.
guys. Hi, Grace. Hi, Beth.
Hi.
I guess I know most everybody so far, except
You know,
Carrie.
you know,
I
Carrie. Okay,
don't
so
know
you know Carrie
Diego.
McKenna.
No, but I'm looking forward to getting to know Carrie a little bit. And
Yeah.
Diego as well.
People are asking for links, and so I'm trying to send it out to people who are like, "Hey, you guys all did great. You found the link." But yeah, some
Good
people
job.
are not
In
as savvy,
progress.
maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got a
I
few
was
texts
just
myself.
watching.
Where's the link? Where's the link?
I went off the link that Julie emailed.
Great.
That worked better than the
The event.
Eventbrite.
What happened
Was
with
it actually
Eventbrite?
in? Yeah, what happened with that?
You have to
Do you know?
sign in, and that means you have to
Uh,
have a password. And if I have a password, I just didn't want to look it up because
Okay.
I'm tired of looking up passwords.
Okay.
okay.
That's good to
Yeah.
know because I'm just, we're all
No, it
learning about
is.
these things and just different how to make it easier for people. So thank you for sharing that feedback there. Um, we want it to be as easy as possible in some ways. So
For sure. And I got one from Becky Harwood says she can't make it, but she'll listen to the recording and she's
okay.
apologizing. I'm like, no
Yeah,
problem.
we had 34 people sign up, so we're just sort of making
Oh,
sure that people have enough connection here. And now there we go. Um, come, join us. Three. So yeah, I know a lot of you, but there's some new people here, which is really really fun. So, and if you have your camera, if you could put it on, that would be amazing. 'Cause I do it. We love interaction. We love connection. We love being able to interact with people, um, and yeah, it's just a really really exciting to share on this topic of legacy and um, I just know that this has been something that has been just in the works for me. Hey, oh, there you go. Lynn got in. Hello, good to see you. And yeah, hey, thank you, Diego, for putting on your camera. And we're still having people come in. This has been in the works for a long time. So for me, my name is Jesse Rivas, and I run a writing coaching business called Above the Sun, and I help a lot of just authors do writing their books, writing and publishing, editing, web design, kind of all the stuff. And Julie is also does the same thing. She's a coach and she does web design as well. And we both have this huge heart to help people just like actually change the world and leave an impact for people. And so this has been a course or a workshop that I've been on my heart for many maybe many years, at least many months. I'm
I
trying to
know
figure
he
out
doesn't look that old, does he? So you've got to wonder about that statement.
how I'm getting there. I have my boy. He's three
I
months
hear
old.
you.
He's definitely aging me. So, and
Yeah.
I did the no shave November too. So there's
Oh,
that.
you did. Oh boy.
Um, yeah, like if those of you have done like coaching stuff, there's some people believe that there's seven stages in a person's life, and starting with being promoted and deserts and all this stuff. And usually around I follow this person named Tony Stolfus, and he says usually around stage five, you're about 30 or 40 years old. You're entering your calling finally. And I feel like I'm kind of doing that, entering my calling. But they say usually around like stage six is you enter some kind of valley of identity where you kind of leave your calling in some ways through various circumstances, and you kind of really find your identity deeper with God and not what you're doing. And then finally, stage seven is your convergent stage, and that's usually when people retire. And but he says that that's when you're most powerful and that you have the most to offer people. And the lie, of just I'll just say it, the enemy is tries to keep us silent. And so my heart has always been, or has, I feel like it's been, with helping people with story, is to really help people who are entering that seventh stage, or even people who are entering the fifth stage, or whatever, to be prepared for what that seventh stage is, that legacy. And so that's that's for me. I mean, I've helped many different authors do different things, writing books, and I'm even helping my dad write a memoir too, which has been really, really fun. So that's been kind of part of my journey. But yeah, I'm really, really excited to be here as well with Julie, who has a much more powerful story. Well, I don't know. I know she wouldn't say that.
Stop.
She would not. There's no comparison. But yeah, Julie, you want to go ahead and just kind of share about you and what your heart is for this
Sure,
workshop?
sure. Yeah, my heart is that I am in my boy stage 6. So we call it that. I'm a lot older than Jesse is. And I had a little trip to heaven this last summer and got sent back when God said there was still work to be done, which really emphasized to me, am I ready? I had no idea I was going to go, that day, no idea at all. And when I came back, it really, I keep a Substack blog, and part of the reason I keep Substack is because Substack stays with you. So even after you're gone, they keep your blog up, unless a family member says take it down. And I needed a place because I was so intent on writing and researching about heaven. And people jokingly call me a heaven reporter, but it has kind of turned out to be the case. But along with that is a real desire to help people, get to that point where if you go all of a sudden, what are you leaving behind? And I've run a mantra of opinions. There's one guy that very, very firmly told me, you have no control over your legacy. He's like, you can't control it. Don't even try. And I'm like, well, I disagree. Just a little bit. I disagree with that. I mean, obviously there's things you cannot control, but there are things within our, control. And for most of us who might have families or children or ongoing generations, we've seen things impact people even down the generations, and even from my grandparents and my parents. And so, it's pretty vital. And so then Jesse brought up this idea for a class, and he's like, you've kind of been to heaven, and I bet you're looking at legacy. And I'm like, yeah, I am. So that's what started it all for us to get you here in the room and to help you out with it.
So yeah, we'd love to hear. That's thank you for that, Julian. Yeah, it's
Sure.
very, very true. We both come from different points of view of like who this is for, and this is really for, yeah, people who want to leave legacies. And it's not even about age. I'm realizing for myself now. I mean, I'm in my 40s, but I've actually taken a legacy class as well. And because I'm like, hey, I want to leave something for my son. And he's 3 months old, but it's like it gets me thinking about, yeah, like now I have a son who's going to carry on my name, and what are my values that I want to instill in the next generation and different things. And so um you know we we're trying to, yeah, share this with these tips that we've learned on how to tell story, why to tell story, where to tell story, who, all these things, and we'll get into that. But we'd love to hear from you guys. We do want this to be a little bit of an open-ended. Um, I will go ahead and yeah, I'll share the slideshow in a little bit. But we want to be a little bit open-ended as far as like interaction. We'd love to you to put things in the chat as you're talking. But for right now, feel free to, yeah, put in the chat, or and we'll call on you for, I don't know, a good 5 minutes or so. Not one person, but total 5 minutes. We're not going to have you talk for 5 minutes, but just kind of share in your chat, like what brought you here and what you're hoping to get out of this legacy um, class, workshop, maybe what you're hoping to receive, maybe where you are in life. Are you an author? any things to tell us about yourself, and I'd love to read it in the chat here. Um, and while you do that, I will go ahead and do our slides really briefly to kind of give you an overview of what we're doing today. So, and if you could, if you're not talking, if you could mute, and we will call on you if you are, if we're going to have you chat. So, yeah, this is us. This is our class workshop. Leaving a testimony of God, family, and hope is your legacy. Um, as you know, as Julia said, she has this amazing experience where she realizes that life is precious, and I as well am helping my dad and myself write my memoir. This is what we're going to be doing. We're going to have just three sections here. We're starting with why your story matters. And then I'll go into a little bit of just from a writing coach point of view, how to actually fill out your story. And I'll go a little bit vulnerable with my story during that time. And then we're just going to go into what comes next, kind of who to write for, why, when, how, all that stuff. And that's in section 3. Um, but uh, but yeah, so let's see here. I want to go ahead and read the chat now to kind of have you guys share what is going on. So Carrie was saying she has a story to tell, lots of experiences, and hopefully will help others. That's awesome, Carrie. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we have some people. Yeah, Carrie has an amazing story of being healed, and I'd love for that to be shared. Yeah, and legacy, yeah, could just be really testimonies of what God has done with our lives. Absolutely. We have Diego saying, recently retired physician. Legacy can be many things. Exactly that. My daughter suggested I join you guys. My mother wrote about her legacy before she passed. May want to do the same. Diego, do you want to share a little bit about that? I'd love to kind of, and everyone else can put in the chat too, kind of why you're here. But Diego, do you have a moment to just kind of share? I'd love for you to tell more about your story there.
I've got a moment and I've got hours, you know. It's interesting. I didn't realize that there was going to be a spiritual perspective to you guys,
Hmm.
um, which as a physician and as a surgeon and as someone who treated cancer for many years and been through some difficult operations with great success. And sometimes, you wonder how the heck could that happen? But I've always thought to myself, I've never become so spiritual as when I entered medicine because I was pretty pragmatic before that. But I'm telling you, I've seen miracles. I mean, things that just shouldn't happen, and they do because I don't think it's under my control. I mean, my patients thank me for all I've done, and I would do the same for any one of them.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's not me. There's a greater power that determines. There's things that are written, they're beyond my control. And I'm just so blessed
Hmm.
that I was able to be part of that. Um, I am just so incredibly lucky.
Hmm. Yes. Thank you, Diego. Happy to have you here. That's really precious. And yeah, me and Julie we're both Christians, and we can't get away from the spiritual aspect of it. And this is not going to be, you know, these are tools that are going to be available for all people. But yeah, our worldview is that we have a mission too in a lot of ways. So, but thank you, Diego. Kim is sharing a devotional memoir to help people see God at work in their lives. Awesome, Kim. Sally is sharing a story of the Great Exchange, which Jesse helped me write. Yes, I helped Sally publish her book. This is amazing. Thank you, Sally. Good to see you. He's now asked me to share the legacy of how we honor by running together. It's awesome. God doing that. Um, I want to write my story. This is Beth, and testimony to leave for the loved ones, especially when I'm with Jesus. Amazing, Beth. This is awesome, Julie. What do you think? This is
I
fun.
love it. This is great. This is really great. Thanks for sharing, you guys. I know it's a little vulnerable sometimes to share, but we can only get somewhere if we do, right? We share a little bit. So thanks for doing that.
Okay, are you ready for your section, Julie?
Sure, I can go into it, and I think I better share a little more about my heaven story since
Yeah,
that was on the
absolutely.
agenda as well. And it's all tied in together, of course. But yes, last August, not this August, but last August, I had an allergic reaction. And it was unlike any reaction I've ever had before in my life. I do carry an EpiPen and meds, and God very specifically spoke to me. I was alone in the house and said, this is an allergic reaction. Go take your meds. And I was like, what? I wanted to argue a little bit, but it's good that I didn't. I went and took them. It didn't pull me out of it. I eventually did my EpiPen. It pulled me out a little bit, but not quite enough. And so I ended up calling 911 and in the cul-de-sac in front of my house in the ambulance. I had been passing out. It kept going fade to black, fade to black, fade to black. I got in the ambulance. They tie you down so you're safe. And I felt a little safer and I started passing out again. And they asked me, they're trying to keep me awake. They're like, what do you do? And I said, I work with domestic violence victims. They said, I write books. I'm an author. And I went through all this stuff. And as soon as that happened, my head fell to the side again and it wasn't fade to black anymore. It was orange. And I was like, why is it orange? But God gave me a very curious nature. So I had to look into it, where I'm at. And I guess at the time I wasn't really thinking, where am I? I was just thinking, why is it orange instead of black? It's always been black and gray. Why did it turn orange? But it was basically a cloud in front of me, and it was an orangish gold, kind of really warm butter. It's hard to describe the colors here. We don't have the colors here that are up there. And it was a cloud, and there were people shapes, and there was light coming from it. It was like dancing light, and there were people shapes behind the cloud. And I'm like, oh, there's people, and I'm just kind of a little bit of an extrovert. You might have picked that up. And, so I stepped forward. I wanted to step forward and I couldn't step forward to go see these people. And then I started realizing, wait, there's somebody next to me. And it was Jesus. It was Jesus next to me. And he told me, he said, it's not time yet. And he snapped down two kaleidoscope looking gates and they were making beautiful pictures and moving and making flowers and orange and gold. And there was some purple and some blue and onyx and pearls, lots of pearls, and basically blocked my barrier. Told me it was time to go home. And then he picked me up and he carried me home. So I felt his arms all the way down. It was like a vortex coming back. I didn't tunnel up, but I did vortex coming back. Since that time, I have gone one other time, and not as many people know this unless you read my blog. But I did have a second time with him where I actually got to see him face to face, and he and I got to interact, and it was quite an emotional experience. It's not emotional when you're there per se, at least it wasn't for me, but when you get back and you realize how impactful it was. And what impacted me most about it was he was intimately aware of my entire life, of all my work I do, of every single piece on earth that I thought, oh, maybe it's making a little difference, right? He was like, your work's not done. You've got this, get back there and do it. And he was so very aware and pleased that I was doing, that work. I have never liked my name just because it's common. When I grew up, there was always five Julies in every class. But he said my name, and when he said my name, my opinion about my name completely has changed because I'm his Julie, and it's an amazing feeling to know how much he loves each one of us and not just knows us, but loves us so intimately and has us on a special mission. It became incredibly clear to me that, I had to go back to Earth and I had to do it for a reason. And that each one of you is here for a reason. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. He'd have no hesitations to take you home right now if your mission was completed. So, the other thing that really struck me about my experience is that he was sad. He was sad to send me back when he told me it was time to go. There was a weight to his words. And, it dawned on me when I opened my eyes that his best day, best day ever, is going to be when all of us have joined him there, as his children. And as a mother, and now I'm a nana, oh my goodness, I am a nana. I get that, and I totally understand that now. So It's a very powerful experience. He wants to return. He wants to bring us home. We're not ready for that yet here on earth, and he's just waiting for us to get ready. So your story matters because this is going to sound very trite. Nobody else can tell it, and nobody else can live it, like you live it. And I have seen time and time again, I know Jesse loves this word when I use it, ripple. I have time and time again, I've seen the ripple effects of our story go on and on and on, and people not even, realize the impact. I mean, a lot of our impact will happen after we're gone. We won't necessarily, know about that. Let me give you an example. My grandma was a woman of faith, but she was a very strict Lutheran woman. So she didn't, it was back in that era with the pictures where they never smile and you look at them and you're like, weren't they ever happy? No, they just didn't smile. And she also did not share a lot. She wasn't openly emotional. She didn't share a lot of stories. She went to church every Sunday. We knew that about her. And sometimes I spent the night with her on Saturdays. So I went with her on Sunday. Well, she passed away, and my dad found her prayer journals, and there were four of them, and they were all bound together, and they were written in, page after page after page of all these prayer requests through her life that she prayed for. And my dad literally said, he sat down with us and he's like, I had no idea. He said, I knew my mom, loved God, but I had no idea that she was such a woman of faith and that she had this prayer life, going on in the side. And that greatly impacted me. And I was 13 or 14 at the time. But it was a huge impact on me to sit there and think that the fact that my grandma kept a log and cared for all of these people enough to pray for them, that it really spoke to me, and I do the same now. So that's just an example of one thing that rolls down the hill, right? Our life has impact whether we like it or not, and I hope that all of you will choose, to make that a greater and a positive impact as much as you can. There's a lot in the Bible about, leaving your stories and testimonies. I know not everybody here reads the Bible, and that's okay. We're still glad you're here. But there is power in your testimony. Revelation 12:11 says they overcame by the word of their testimony. They overcame, they won by the word of their testimony. And in Psalms, we have Psalms 102:18. We will get you a PDF, by the way, afterwards of some of the information in this packet since you came to class. Psalm 102:18 says, let this be written for a future generation. Habakkuk, that's always a fun one to pronounce, huh? 2:2 says, write the vision and make it plain. Psalm 107:2 says, let the redeemed of the Lord tell their story. It has always been about stories. And that's why even Jesus, right, spoke in parables, in stories. Psalm 78:4, we will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord. In Mark 5:19, we read, go home to your own people. Go home to your own people and tell them how much the Lord has done for you. And Isaiah 12:4 says, give praise to the Lord. Make known among the nations what he has done. And then again, Psalm 102 again, later on in the chapter, talks about having it be written for a future generation. So our stories carry in spiritual, inheritance, and they can also have an impact, whether it's spiritual or non-spiritual, on our future people. I found myself digging into a little bit of what wisdom is, right? Because the more I was reading, it was like God saying, get your wisdom out there. And I know, having some elderly people in my life and getting there myself, that we want to share our wisdom, right? We always feel like there's a purpose for it. And shall we say we know more than them? No, we don't want to say it that way, but you know what I mean, right? As we have lived and we've had that life experience, we see people going through what we went through, or maybe it's our kids, or maybe it's our grandkids, and it's like, oh, been there, done that, right? And we have wisdom to share about that. And so I was curious about, what the Bible actually said about wisdom too. And so I was looking at verses for that, and there's some that are adapted here, but wisdom is very powerful, is what it comes down to. In Proverbs 3, it says, listen, more profitable than silver. Wisdom yields better returns than gold. It is more precious than rubies. Nothing else compares to it. Wisdom is long life, riches and honor, peaceful and pleasant, a tree of life to those who take hold a blessing. Wisdom creates safety. That was a new one. I hadn't heard that one yet.
So good.
And that's a good one, huh? And then
Yeah.
Proverbs 20, 22 and 23, I actually read that wisdom is like honey, too high for fools. Good point, right? Gives future and hope and confidence. It prevails through great power. Our wisdom gives God gladness. There's a lot about wisdom. And shall I keep going, Jesse? I don't know where we're at on time because I've got
No, this is
a
yeah, this
few
is
more
fantastic. Yeah, you
seconds here.
keep going. I'm loving this, and by all means, keep putting things in the chat, guys, to interact with Julie. We want this to be a interaction, but yeah, I love your story, Julie, and it's you carry such a depth of wisdom in yourself. So it's just such an honor to listen to you. Yeah, keep going for sure.
You're very kind, and to you as well. But and I will catch up on your chats when Jesse's talking. Let's have this one is adapted from Proverbs 10, 13, 15, 16, and 19. And it basically, as I went through all those chapters, said that wisdom yields patience. Hmm. It is born from listening to advice, heeding life giving correction, and accepting discipline. Brings a love of life. Those who cherish wisdom will prosper.
Hmm.
It makes a mouth prudent. It appeases a king's wrath. It gets you out of trouble with the king. That's impressive. It's better than gold. It provides discernment, brings knowledge, and it spreads knowledge, which is a fountain of life and brings joy.
And what's so good about
Prob-
this too is that,
Go
each
ahead.
one of us, yeah, I mean, like we all have, and this is what kind of what Julie is, I believe, it's saying is that we all have like our experience, like even as mundane as you might think, you don't have to have a heaven experience, but to have wisdom, I think that each one of us has something that of God's heart that is the next generation not just would like to know, but is needed to know. I mean, to carry on legacy is huge.
And let's be fair about that. I think wisdom means we are living with an eternal perspective.
Hmm.
And that's what my heaven visit did for me. And my heaven book is done. I'm waiting to get it published. It'll be out, it'll be out and it'll be great. But that's one of my goals in the book is to help people live with that eternal perspective, right? Instead of this temporary perspective. And that is so very important. And that is one thing that your legacy can also do
Well said.
as you leave it for other people. Because someday, my friends, this life is but a blip on the radar. It truly is. We're going to be like, we were there 80, 90, 100 years or whatever. It is nothing compared to the eternal life that he has planned up there. And I've seen some of it. So I want you to be able to pull from my story, right? And to take that wisdom and say, yeah, I'm gonna live it like it means it because it truly does. In fact, Proverbs 13:20 says, walk with the wise and become wise. So there you
Hmm.
go.
There you go.
I love the verses also that say, and keep in mind, Proverbs are Proverbs for life for everybody. They really are. In Proverbs 4, 7 to 9, it says, I love this. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, get it, people. Though it costs all you have, get understanding. Though it costs all you have. Cherish her, and she will exalt you. Embrace her, and she will honor you. She will give you a garland to grace your head and present you with a glorious crown. Anybody get an idea how very important wisdom is here? Pass it on. And there's even something in the New Testament or Old Testament. In Deuteronomy 4:9, it says, only be careful and watch yourselves closely so that you do not forget the things your eyes have seen. Teach them to your children and to their children after them. And if that's not a direct, order to think about your legacy, I don't know what else is. So then we start thinking about how to start, and maybe you don't have a heaven story. And I don't want you to flatline like I did. So I'm glad you don't have a heaven story if you don't. But you do have stories, right? You have healing in your life. You have maybe you've had trauma, maybe you've had abuse, maybe you work in the field, maybe your parents were addicted or divorced or there's so many things that we go through And I do believe one of the purposes we go through those things is to speak to others, right? Because they see our strength. How many times do we hear, I can get through this because you got through it. If you can do this, I can do this. And the support that that brings to us. So these are things to think about. So you might want to jot down this list, but this will be in the PDF as well as you're thinking about what is my legacy and how do I leave it and who do I leave it for. Think about the people that you've invested in through your life. Who has shared that you have impacted them spiritually or otherwise? I wasn't having a great day today, but you know what? God knew that. And I got two greeting cards in the mail today. And they were both, you've impacted my life. And one even said, because of the programming I'm taking from you, I am now unstuck. I am unstuck. And I was just like, oh, he knew that I needed that. You have impact, whether you hear it or not, you have impacted. And I pray that you do get to hear it sometime if you haven't. But think about the people you have invested in. Okay. Think about any impact you did create. What impact have you had outside of other people? Have you affected policies, maybe, or laws or statutes, or how about the environment, community organizations, our educational system, our social system? Have you created positive changes for others? What about animals? Have you created positive changes for there are animals in heaven. There are, okay? I promise you, they are there waiting for you. And why did you do that? Why did you seek to do that impact? Why'd you even start going there? And what's it created? Number three, think about goals that you have finished. So, maybe it's that doctorate, right? We have a doctor on board here in the room. Maybe it's that master's degree. Maybe it was a goal to just get through high school, right? Or maybe it was a goal to maybe just have a child or whatever it might be. You've had goals that you finished, but then I want you to flip that around and think about goals that you might have for you that you have not finished. Hmm, I always wanted to dot, dot, dot. Yeah. And how about examples you set? What examples did you set for others? Good or bad? I've set some bad examples. Trust me. I've set some good ones as well. But we all have those times we set bad examples. So, how can I look at my bad examples and leave wisdom on those, for the people coming behind me? And what passions did you hold? Did you love theater? Do you love books? What do you love to do? Metalworking? Any particular reason why you have a passion for those areas? That's what makes you you. Something to think about. How about work you accomplished? What have you accomplished in the work world here on earth, or maybe volunteering, right? Or maybe through your spouse's work or your kids' work? What do you still want to accomplish and why? Now, this is a fun one, so you can put it in the chat, okay? I would like to know something that's on your bucket list and why. Hmm. I have a client this week who is bungee jumping. I think she's 78, she told me. She's bungee jumping this week because it was on her bucket list. She's in Hawaii doing it, so that's a cool place, but good for her. Good for her. Have you always kind of wanted to skydive? I was kind of tempted to skydive when I got home from heaven because I felt like I was invincible. I did not go. I did not go skydiving, but I wondered. I'm like, could I go skydiving and fall on the ground and just go to heaven again? Yeah. Bucket list. We got some
Yeah, we have
2019 news.
traveled to several continents.
Cool.
That's amazing. Live abroad for a year or two, travel the world.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
When
And
else?
these are all really good things to be, yeah, like to write about. Like, these do the bucket list and why it's important to you. But yeah, then write about it. That's
Mhm.
amazing. Uh,
Right, because you don't just put down a bucket list item that doesn't mean something, right? So a bucket list is important. Good. Sally, good. See his kingdom come to see world peace. Wouldn't that be amazing? All right, so think about what's on your bucket list if you have one. Think about that as far as your legacy. She feels unspiritual now, Carrie. No worries. We do not see you that way. All right. And then after your bucket list, think about this. Think about any voice that you gave to other people. Have you given other people a voice? Have you been a voice for the oppressed or the poor or disabled, the sick, the homeless, the addicts, the discouraged, or the anxious, your neighbors? You know, God says whoever does this for the least of these does it directly for him. And he feels that in heaven. And you will see that when you go. And then how about values? What kind of values have you prioritized and why? Anybody want a list of value down that they've had? Oh, Statue of Liberty, Beth, that's one of mine too. Yep, I got to go to New York City and see Ground Zero and all these other things and a Broadway show. That's on my list. How about values? Let me think of a value. How about who has great patience in the room? Anybody? That's something always need to work on.
Yeah,
Creativity
patience
and
takes
management.
forever to learn. That's a problem.
And then you got to spend the rest of your life putting it into action, which, yeah.
I know.
Good. Love. Sally said love. Good. Okay.
This right
Almost got
here,
it. Situation.
the values is the most is what really hit me. It's like, yeah, as I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
really?
actually
Oh,
even
kids are
writing.
kiddo.
Yeah, with my kid, yeah, it's like, like
Yeah.
writing, like even right now, what is the values I want to instill in him, and what do I hope? I'm actually writing a to him as he's 18 years old and say,
Oh, good for you.
hopefully we did this when you're growing up, and the values that
Oh,
I want to, yeah. So
oh, that'll be wonderful.
yeah,
That's one of the things that my dad did for us when we were young. He wrote us letters on our birthday every year, and they weren't just
yeah.
how you do in one page. They were a multiple page item. So, and those are treasure keepers. They
Mhm.
absolutely are. Good. I saw honesty. I saw valuing people, encouraging them. Good, Linda. High expectations and standards. Yes, that can be a pro and a con. Dr. Payne, Dr. Tracy. Yep. Compassionate, love, see God in me. Good. All good values. So even if your children are grown, or perhaps you don't have kids, or perhaps you're beyond the age and you're not or never going to have kids, and that's fine. There's still values you have, right? And anytime you have a value, there's a reason. So think about those things. And then also consider history that should not die. And those are the stories that Grandpa loves to sit everybody down and tell everybody for the fifth time, right? But how about getting a record of that in your life, right? How about maybe sitting down in front of it? You don't have to write it if you don't want to. Sit down in front of a video and say, if I think about the top 5 things that I would want you to know about me after I'm gone, this is what they, would be. That's also a way of leaving a legacy. So think about history. Oh, and don't just consider serious stuff. Funny things. Funny things are good and have life lessons, and laughter is good. So consider humorous things as well. Like the times the cows went out and never came home, or whatever it might be for you and your family. All right, I have a poem to read to you. I called it an end of life poem. Um, as the ripple goes, and it's kind of long. I'm sorry, and I'm not really a super poet, but this one came to my heart, so I wanted to share it with you. When I am gone, let there be light. I struck a match and passed the flame. Let there be laughter echoing in rooms I'll never enter again, carried in the memory of joy shared freely when the world felt too heavy to smile. Let there be stories, not perfect, but true, tales of stumbles and standing again, of quiet courage, of others first, in the battles no one saw but mattered anyway. Let there be healing, wounds bound, then wrappings awry, as completeness comes. And may it crest high as it reaches those who lack. Let the work of my hands outlive the sound of my voice. A letter, a book, a post, a poem, a scar mended, a door held open for someone walking behind. But let the ones I love remember less of what I said, less of what I wrote, and more of how I persevered when it would have been much easier to give up. Let there be questions that I dared to ask, and space left behind for others to answer them with their lives. If I leave anything, let it be grace, tucked into corners where shame used to hide, offered like bread to anyone hungry for a second chance. And if my breath has joined the wind of heaven, if my hands now rest in the one who gave them purpose, then let my absence whisper, not of ending, but of new life. Let the legacy be this, not a monument, but momentum, not a name carved in stone, but hope etched in hearts that saw how love can multiply when given away. When I am gone, let it not be silence, but a soft, steady wave, swell meeting shore, for hands I never held, fingers I never encountered, faces I never saw, lives I never knew, but somehow still reached. Please let my stories be told as the ripple goes.
Well done. You are a poet, as somebody says in the chat
No,
there.
thanks. It's been a long time since I wrote poetry, but that, it just it just really says it all, I guess, when I read it. And we want the ripple to go on and on. So, all right, so we have a little activity. Do we want to do this out loud, Jesse, or do you want to do this
Yeah,
in chat
that'd be
again?
great. We have time, and this is really great. This is we have time. So yeah, I'd love to hear from some people like what's a story, or even as Julie put, there's a lot of value things there. Like, you can say what's values or what experience or what something that you've never shared before, but wish somebody knew about you. So yeah, put in the chat, or if raise your hand either in person or in virtual, and we'd love to call in a few people just to kind of share, or even just just thoughts so far about this whole thing. But I'd love to hear a story or a value or an experience that you would love to share. Okay, I think Ginger is raising her hand. Yeah, I would like to unmute Ginger and just kind of share. Thank you. Yeah. And I'll go ahead and unshare for right now. Oh, you need to unmute there, I think, Ginger. I'll ask you to unmute there. There you go.
What about, do you have a thing over the screen that has my name on it? Do you want me to just,
What?
there's this, okay, never mind. I got rid of it.
We can see you and hear
Yeah, we
you.
can see you. Yeah, you're good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, in things that I've written, I'm a blogger, and I can't help but talk about hymns. But that's one thing that I think has really impacted my life. I went to Sunday school and church all my life, and I love Jesus deeply, and I have just a heart for hymns, and I want that to be a part of other people's lives, and just I've got a lot of hymns tell me a story of my own life, that I've someday will share. I'm planning to start on Substack soon, and so I hope people like hymns on Substack because that's most of what I have.
They have been. I've been posting them, Ginger. I've been preparing the way for you. And they're singing along. And that I just want to say really quick, I don't want to interrupt too much, but that's a really good point because when I got back from heaven, there was so much more depth to both the songs and scriptures. And I honestly think that some of our hymn writers probably went to heaven at some point. When I really read the words and I really go through of these hymns I knew as I was a child, I was just like, that is in depth. That person has walked the streets of heaven and they know. So hymns are really important. And I do see some people kind of bringing some of those back, but yes, Ginger, they're ready for you because I've been singing them on Substack there for a while and they're enjoying that. So
Thank you.
it's like Lynn has something.
Yeah, this isn't so much something about me, but it's something about the impact of story. I recently met a new person on a Zoom meeting, and she told me she'd like to hear my story. So I'm like, oh, what part do I tell? So I prayed about what I should tell, and I ended up telling something that was really traumatic for me that I went through. And she just sat there and asked me more and more and more. And I didn't know anything about her story. Turned out that my testimony of what I went through and how God got me through it and how I survived and got to the other side was exactly what she needed to hear because she was in the same situation. I just wanted to encourage everybody that what you share, you just never know how it's going to be used to help somebody
Amazing.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah, very important.
Okay, we get one more. And I, s- I can call on some. I know that Carrie put something in the chat. I mean, do you want to share yours, Carrie, or yeah, because that's a beautiful story.
Okay. Um, I grew up as a PK in the religious world, and in 2019, I was in a job, 18-hour, well, 24/7 really. But I was working 18 hours. I slept on site to be on call, but it made me really sick. There's a lot of mold in that place. And so I traveled around Australia trying to find a diagnosis because CIRS, chronic inflammatory response syndrome, is not recognised in Australia. So when I finally got diagnosed, I was here in Queensland, Australia, at my parents' place, and I pretty much just I couldn't leave. I got so sick I couldn't leave the house. Even just going to the doctors and everything was just it affects 13 different organs in your body. So I felt dead. um, After the brain fog, I had a brain fog for a couple of years, and when I came out of that, I joined back into Brilliant Communities. I have was a part of them for a long time, but this time they had circle groups, and Sally was one of the leaders, and she's regional facilitator for my area as well. So I joined into that, and I just I found that I didn't know the Bible. I've been to Bible college. I just didn't understand the Bible in how Christ wanted us to know about it, in what Christ was trying to show us,
Mhm.
you know. And so um, I learned a lot of keys to the kingdom. And then one day I was lying in bed and I said, "So God, I have the three in me, which means I have all your power and authority. I declared I'm healed." And guess what? I woke up healed. And I've been able to leave the house and I've just been able to, God's just been downloading all these new business ideas. I was a locksmith. I am now a painter. He said, get rid of all the locks. So I'm going through the shed, getting rid of all of it. Like, massive story. But yeah, I'm alive. I'm alive. I was dead and now I'm alive.
Come on.
Wow. Wow.
And we were mentioning had an opportunity to interview her recently, and we were saying, well, yeah, you used to be a locksmith, but now you're unlocking other people, and so you're
Yeah.
still locksmithing, but you have keys for other people. So that's a beautiful
Yeah.
That's
story,
awesome,
Carrie.
Carrie. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
telling us. That's awesome.
Well, good. This is amazing, and I can hear from all of you guys. But I do want to, yeah, we may have some more time at the end for some more sharing, but yeah, I want to kind of go now a little bit into since Julie did such a great job sharing about the whys and all of you guys, the amazing stories. Um, I want to talk a bit more about kind of how to do it. This is something that both me and Julie do as writing coaches, and we're just going to do some high level stuff on how to actually write the story. Um, and I will share a little bit about my story to kind of go into this. So I'm writing my memoir, or it's not really a memoir per se. It's telling my stories, but it's also a little bit of teaching. It's kind of a hybrid. But one of the clearest memories that I have when I was a child is my house burned up in when I was 5 years old, and so I was something I carried for decades in my life, this kind of this trauma of my house. And I was 5, my mom grabbed me and ran me outside, and I didn't see the house, but this the whole experience. And I wasn't wearing any clothes at the time, and it just was very traumatic for me. And when I'm writing my story, years later, I'm actually one of my main stories I'm writing right now. My book is about how to actually be a reformer, how to change the world. It's kind of based around my time in ministry school, and um, I the first moment of ministry school, we had a large fire down there, and I wasn't even there, but I was getting trauma again. I was getting kind of triggered of like this moment of my past, and and God just really took me back there and really shared with me that used to be what I used to do is I used to just escape and in my own mind just kind of flee from these disassociate in some ways. And but what God wanted me to do is like he wanted me to really focus on the fire alerts and really realize, okay, it's don't just run away. I used to be like, okay, well, if it burns down, it burns down or whatever. Then, but he wanted me to actually stay engaged, and so that kind of started this value of mine for starting my book about actually being wholehearted, to not be a victim, to not run away, to stay engaged. And so that's kind of a little backdrop of my vulnerable story. But now I kind of want to go into kind of how to do a deeper write. So I look at a story can be, and this can be whether it's a journal, whether it can be a book, and whether it can be um, something as like traumatic, like I was sharing, or it's just something you want to leave down to your next generation. I have three ideas to how to pull it out. W5, which a lot of you guys know, W5, sensory, and legacy, and I'll go into what each one of these means. So for me, um, once you have your story, because I mean, Julie did a great job giving all these ideas of what kind of story you want to write. And we'll get into later on, who you're writing it to and all and the whys. But I want you to think about one of the stories that Julie pulled out of experiences or values, and go into the details by asking yourself the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. So for me, like let's say take my story for example, um the fire. So I asked myself who was there. This is me and my mom. My mom was I was by myself. My mom was there, and I she ran in and she picked me up, scooped me up in her arms, and rushed me outside. That's the who. It helps you bring details, helps you ground your story of who was there. And then next would be what was I doing? Well, for me, I was sleeping in my bed, um and I was under my covers. I was naked. I was confused. And then when I was rushed outside, um I was standing there. Firefighters came, and the fire was flickering behind me. That was what happened. Then where again, these are grounding details in your story. So when you're passing this on to the next generation, these moments matter. We're storytellers. Even if you're not a good storyteller, these things will. I promise you, your next generation would be really thankful for all these details here. So for me, where It happened in my bedroom. It was also cold. It was and even when was it was nighttime. It was cold and dark and and it was yeah, it was uh it was something that happened when I was 5 years old, and I'll go, and the why is kind of like, well, kind of why does this matter? What happens with it? And for me, why it matters is because that moment was kind of the last time that I saw my mom for many years. She turns out, she was actually doing so, like growing some marijuana at the time, and she had to deal something with the law. And so I moved with my dad, and there was a lot of reason behind that of why. Everything has been fixed since then, but that was something that was important to me. So and I tell the story in my book, and this is all these details are really grounding. Do you want to share anything on that, Julie, as far as this stuff, or
Just an encouragement that if you can't think of a portion of one of these, to just put it aside for right now, and that's okay, and delve into it a little bit more later. I think we just saw in Jesse's story that there is deeper trauma than what he presented on the surface. Did you all see that? And it had to do with his mom, right? And sometimes we do have to spend a little bit of time at it and dig deeper, and just wanted to assure you that that's okay if you
yeah,
need to do that. Take that time. Yeah.
there is time, and this is just a way of taking your moments and I mean, because I think in a lot of ways we write stories to pass down of things that are important to us. And I've healed since then. And so there's a lot of, but it's still important for me to share that God was always there with me. And I'll get into that next, but I want to share just even sensory, like what kind of sounds are in your story, smells, textures, like the smelling the fire. These are ways to kind of pull more details in your story and to bring people, because we tell these stories for a reason. We want to pass knowledge, we want to pass information, and these details help our readers then feel what we felt and experience our values. And I'll go into the next one, which is kind of the legacy. It's like the reason why this all come together is like, well, why am I even telling the story? You guys wonder, like, wait, why share this story of this traumatic moment? Well, because what do other people need to know? Well, they need to know that God heals all wounds, that even that there is no place too dark for God's love to reach. He took me from this moment of my life and he saved me. And then also, what he needs to know is that, oh, I guess values. Let's go into values. What values or truth is merged? Well, 20, 30 years later, I got re-traumatized. I got triggered, and I believe that God did it. And so a value that I believe is that he takes us back to heal us. And you may not all agree with that, but that's a value that I have. A vulnerability is important, and I want my son to know that he doesn't have to hide his hard experiences, that God actually let me go back into that so I can actually find where he was during that time and actually heal. So this is something that I think is important, really why you've been telling these stories, what legacy do you want to live on? And then again, just how you can bless somebody from that. What truth and even if it's like a story of going traveling, because I mean I've been across the country as many times. I've been over the world too. I've been to China and Egypt, and even fun stories. It's like, how can this bless somebody? Well, what can you do? What do people need to know from this? And so these really help you kind of fill out your stories for legacy. And so I want to give you an opportunity to kind of to think about that. So if you have a story in mind, and I don't know if we want to necessarily go into, we might just kind of talk live again. I mean, we don't have to necessarily go into a time of individual. I want to kind of hear from you guys, but did that spur anything? So usually what I would do with I would say for clients who are writing stories, I would have them mind map. I would have them kind of, and I think, Sally, you're really good at mind mapping. Can you share one of your mind maps? Actually, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but like, there's a way of yeah, that's perfect. I'll spotlight you in a moment here, Sally. I love she's already ready. But you have your thing in the middle of the event, and then you have all your different things coming off of it, like who was there, what, and then you have your sensory and your smells. You can put a mind map around your story. So when you're actually telling it, you can say, okay, how can I pull in a sound from here? How can I pull in a sight? How can I pull in a blessing, my value? Um, and so this is what I would do. And normally I'd have an activity right now, but I think I love this idea of us just kind of being live. So I'm gonna have Sally, I'm gonna spotlight her in a moment of her mind map. And granted, she's not doing this for a legacy. She just does this every time she's in a meeting, which is amazing. But you can do this for your stories, and I'd love to hear from you guys too, of like kind of what spurred from this part. So let me spotlight you, Sally, on a mind map. Give me 1 second. You ready?
I was actually just looking for the one we did for Brilliant,
Okay,
but I haven't got it on my. There we go. There's a quick one.
that's a good one.
This is me sitting down with the chaplain of one of the top boys' schools in New Zealand and looking at next year
Hmm.
and the wrap up of this year and what's Jesus doing.
Hmm.
And so for me, I have to write. Kerry has been subject to a lot of these over the time, but I write, God tells me what color, and then he highlights it, and then he'll share. I might just whiz and go and get the brilliant one because it was absolutely insane.
Sounds
It's got
good.
about 4 times as much writing on, but basically the colors represent so often. Obviously, red will be green is often for learning, brown is good soil, orange is for new ideas and new beginnings. But he'll tell me what color for somebody as they're sharing. And so for me, it's a way of seeing out of the darkness into the light. It's being able to put onto paper what God is actually sharing as people speak. And so
Mhm.
whenever I host a meeting, whatever meeting it might be, in fact, uh,
Oh, Carrie has one too. Look at
yeah, see, Kerry, there you go. There's one.
that.
Actually, that might even be, is
I
that the
want
one? I did one for Kerry when we met in person. So Kerry and I actually had the honor of meeting in person, and we mind mapped her future and what it would look like and what
Uh,
was God
I'm
telling her.
spotlighting it too, Carrie. Do yours.
Oh, I feel like we need a screenshot of this, Kerry. You and I in the spotlight. That's nuts. Put it up so we can see
Put,
it.
yeah, put
Which
it
one did
up.
you?
Right.
There you go.
Oh,
Very
good
cool.
girl.
All right.
I've got to
Well,
take green.
so anybody
So
else? Yeah, thank you, Carrie. That's amazing. I want to not put you on the spot. So thank you guys for being on the
You
spot
take
here.
that.
So anybody else, before we move on to the last section and just kind of pull this all together into like what, who to write this for, why, all this kind of stuff. I want to hear from you. Put in the chat or even to speak out anything from the sensory stuff that kind of helped. Any questions you have around that, those details.
I just want to say I haven't thought of getting the smells and the colors and the
Hmm.
textures and everything out before. So that was a really good thing for me to when thinking back,
Hmm.
just to really absorb yourself in that scene. So that's good. Thanks, Jess.
You're welcome. Well done. All right. So
Is
all
there
yours.
a Jesse,
Go
can I
ahead.
ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Is there a specific goal for the mind mapping, or is it a matter of just following whatever path you're sent on?
Well, the idea is to take the moment, take the story that you're the value or the story you have, and you're actually pulling in. I'm telling the story. I'm telling the story of values. I'm telling the story of experiences, but it's pulling in the details to help people
Mm, okay.
to kind of go deeper. But yeah, you like as Sally said, you can do mind mapping for any number of things. And so as far as you can go even a step further of like, well, what do I want to write my legacy book on? Let's say you want to write a book. You could say, well, let me go ahead and do a mind map of my values, and here are my values. Let me do a mind map of my experiences, and here are my experiences. Let me do one of moments and that are important to me, like places that I traveled and do all of those. So it's a way of really, you can do it large scale. We can also then zoom into this is the one story for like for me, this is an important story that I want to leave a legacy on because sometimes people only write a legacy letter, just like a single, and we'll get into kind of of what to actually do. If you want to just write a single letter, you can just write one moment and why is this moment important to you and why do you want to pass this on? Does
Okay.
that help?
It does. I'm thinking, so I've walked some clients through timelines,
Hmm.
of their life and not just of their life, but other generations. And perhaps, in my field, things with traumatic events that perhaps happened
There you go.
along the way, because what it helps is that they see patterns, in generations, and they see the family generational stuff, and they also can make a good effort to make sure it doesn't happen in the future because we tend to repeat,
Yeah.
patterns. But I'm just, you got my mind going. I'm just wondering if there's a way to take that timeline and go a bit deeper, by
Hmm.
mind mapping out some of those events. So that's where
Yeah,
I was going with that. Yeah.
exactly. I mean, that's exactly it. And Julie is fantastic at that. She takes clients through this and we'll have an opportunity kind of as like a to we have discounted rates to hire us and gonna go deeper. But yeah, she does this really well with people and we're very thankful for her to share her knowledge, and this has been amazing. So I want to go ahead and jump on to Sally, and before we go into the next section, we're going to probably end a little bit early, which is going to be fine. We'll have some time at the end for some general Q&A. But yeah, Sally, share what you're thinking.
Two things, because Julie's just brought it up. So this one thing, so you said, how can you use this for stories? So right now, God has said to me, I want you to write the story of your clients.
Hmm.
Not the whole story, just the piece of the journey where they've walked with me from their great exchange, which is the theory. So that was this week's YouTube channel.
Ah, there it is.
So all I did was put, and so he said to me, I want you to talk about where was she when you met her?
Mm-hmm.
And then the green was how has she grown? And then the orange is who she is today.
Mm.
So I just sit and listen to him, and he gives me what he gives me. There's another one for Kerry's last week or the week before. And what I also do quite often in a session, when you're coaching somebody, which clearly you are, is quite often the they'll speak and and I'll just be writing it, and then you can start to see the pattern, and
Hmm.
then you can start to see what's happening. And um 2 weeks ago. Lovely lady who I've been journeying with. She was one of the first to read my book. She was a proofreader, etc., and has sort of come on a journey with me and then started to coach personally. She really opened up. And I was like, holy heck, we've got to deal with this. Like
Mm-hmm.
I can't leave this open, because if what she shared, if we don't exchange it and put
Right.
the love of God back in,
Hmm.
this is going to be seriously unhelpful. And I just said, are you ready? Like, is now the time? I don't feel ready. I said, I've got unction. Like I just, and then we just started to pray. And then what I did was, as we were going through it, I filled the whole of the other side of the page. So we covered the old with the new, and it was beautiful. So yeah, have fun. I did this as a kid.
Hmm.
That's how I did all my notes for all my exams, and I haven't
Hmm.
touched it for 40 years.
Wow.
And now he's brought it back. And so it's like,
That's
okay.
beautiful.
And it seems to be helpful. So
Hmm.
I just encourage you. And it's interesting, because the other thing I was going to share with you guys is, I don't feel called at this stage to write, but I'm not very good at telling the story. Great at talking.
Hmm.
And so I'm here to learn how to share stories, because he's asked me to share other people's stories, because it's their stories that bring the breakthrough.
Come
I've
on.
already done mine. So
Which
so
is
yeah,
legacy in of itself too sometimes. Yeah.
like you've wrecked me. I've been wrecked in the Holy Spirit 3 times already on this call. Like
Hmm.
he has just like boom. So I was clearly meant to be here
Glad you
to,
are.
to gain something from this, and to pass more legacy on, to do what I can do in the space I've been given. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sally. Yeah, you're very welcome, and thank you all for being here. We're going to go ahead and land this plane with the final step here. And I mean, this is something that like, what now? What comes next? As far as you have your story, and And even you pull it deeper, this is something that we probably jokingly say that we save the most important question for last. Really, that in a lot of ways, why, who are you writing this for? I mean, this is something that what do you do with this book? Or it can be it can be anything. It can be a legacy letter. It can be anything. But you really important to ask, like, who do I want to write this for? Whether that's a child, in my case, it can be a grandchild, spouse, friend, future generations. Really, the who does make it very important, right, Julie?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to go on with the other pieces here, the kind of all the other sections, or do you want to kind of back and forth this?
We can go back and forth.
Okay.
That's fine with me. But why would be next, right? What's the important part, Um, your motivation is important, right, in it, because if it's somebody else trying to motivate you, it's not going to work. I mean, you need to get motivated yourself. You need to have the buy-in, and it needs to be important to you. So, I think sitting down and making a list of why you want to share it, and maybe it's not spiritual, maybe it's not because God said in those Proverbs verses to do it. Maybe it's because you don't want a piece of history forgotten, right? Or you don't want generational patterns repeated, and you want to do what you can to prevent that.
Hmm.
Everybody's is going to be very unique, but just as important to map out, I think, in that piece.
Exactly. And I'll do the next two and let Julie end with the how because she has a lot of good ideas. But yeah, like for me, that also it's really important to ask is like what else? Like, is there when you write something, whether it's a story and it's like what else do you want me to say in this? And uh, a if you write a legacy book, it's a collection of stories. And so oftentimes you just keep asking, well, what else do you have for me, Lord? What else do you want me to share? Do you want me to expand this into a book? Do you want me to keep this a letter? You want me to add a photo to it? Those are some really things to kind of help you fill out this legacy for the person that you're writing it to. Um, but also like when. This is something that is also important. Like when do you I heard somebody say that sometimes it's not always the win of for you, but it's oftentimes the win for them because and this is very open-ended as far as what we leave, but let's say you're writing to your kids. Maybe they're not ready to receive it at even at 18. But like they may need to receive it later, or if you're writing it to a family member, like a brother or sister. Sometimes people like to receive legacy after moments of grief. Maybe you write it to maybe after you're gone. And there's you pray to ask the Lord when it's okay to be collecting stories now, but also that the win is very very important. And so Julie can respond to that too, but the how can is also important, right?
Yeah, I think there's so many options for how you want to leave your legacy. And what I love about it is that it really takes all skills and talents and personalities into play. Um, you probably can't see it well. There's a painting on my back wall, and it's a client that I've worked with who has had very deep trauma and abuse. And one day she brought me this. One day she brought me this painting, and it's beautiful. It has two hands holding flowers, and she goes, "But I have to tell you the story." And I'm like, "What's up?" And she said, "I started this painting," she said, "with all the words that I first felt when I came to you with healing. All the bitterness, the anger, the upset, the hurt of her hurts and trauma." But she goes, "As you worked with me," she goes, "I was able to paint over each one of those words and make it into a beautiful picture."
Hmm.
So for her, that painting will always have a story. That's part of her legacy that she's left, of her healing. But there's also a lot of, other modes. I know there's writers in the room, and writing is great. I would encourage, if you're going to blog, I would encourage Substack because of what I mentioned in the beginning. If you die, your family's not probably going to not keep up your website unless you want them to, but they'll still have to pay things for that, right? And so I do encourage if people are thinking of blogging or even ongoing like articles or letters or anything like that, that Substack is a good platform for that with the idea that that's not guaranteed, right? We don't know if somebody else might not own Substack in the future. We don't know any of that. A lot of people do choose books. I have a client right now who is using Storyworth.com, I believe it is, to actually answer questions. And she's written her, Becky, you want to mute? She's written her whole um, book based on these questions. So, and now I'm helping her edit it, and we're going to make a cover, and it ended up being a very significant size book, but it had all these prompts. What was your first date? How did you meet dad? All those things. And so instead of thinking that ahead, she got a specific, list. What's your best memory? Things like that. And if you're not a writer, that's okay. Like, I had kind of mentioned, make a video, sit down in front of a video. Oh, my sister-in-law did a very cool thing a few years ago when my dad turned 80. She sat him down for hours and she just asked him questions and she videoed it. I haven't seen it yet, but I know I'll want to see it someday.
That's what I do
And
with my dad is I actually
it
record
was
it on
just
audio, but yeah, like just
yeah,
asking questions for hours. Yeah.
for hours and hours. And it's just fascinating and it's still fascinating to me too that I haven't heard all the stories. My parents came over for Thanksgiving and they were telling me some story and I'm like, why did I never hear that before? And then I'm like, well, shoot, I'm going to forget it, right? So video and audio recordings are very helpful, with them. And letters and poems, as we mentioned, are other, but artists might think differently. If you like to paint or draw, maybe your way of leaving a legacy is leaving an album, right?
Mhm.
Of maybe pieces and parts of your life that you have creatively put out. So there's lots of hows, and
Mhm.
that's usually a pretty personal, decision on how you choose. But we're here. Jesse and I are here if you want to consult with us on those kinds of things, or you can't quite decide, which would be the best format for you.
Yeah, so here are offers, and we have a few different offers for you. The first one, this is just a labor of love for us to do this for free, but we do this both of us for a living, not legacy per se, but we help authors for a living. And Julie has graciously offered just a one-on-one session at a discounted rate. And so if I put the chat down there, sorry, the email, my email address is team@abovethesun.org, and you can email us if you want to hire Julie one-on-one. She offers it for $199 to give you feedback in up to 2,000 words and do some one-on-one with her. But we also wanted to give you a really even deeper discount for our group critique. Both of us have been a part of critiques groups for a while, and we just think it's very, very valuable. So we offered about a month from now, January 7th, so kind of in the new year at 4 p.m. Somebody put a dollar sign in front of the 4 p.m. That's hilarious. 4 p.m. Pacific time, which was about a month from now. If you wanted to work on this, work on a letter up to 2,000 words, and you want to you can read up to 2,000, but generally, depending on how many people come, it could be maybe around. It all depends on who all comes. But we'll do it for 2 hours, and you can read most likely probably between 500 to 1,000 words, and we do a live critique. You will also receive though it's a legacy writing kit. We've been working together on a lot of different tips and tricks. You will all be receiving a free PDF from being here, but we have an even deeper one to help you really go deeper into the writing journey. So if you're interested in that, I'll put it in the chat here. You can pay the $47 and we'll do a critique, like a full-on group critique. It's going to be at abovethesun.org slash deep dive to pay for that. And then, of course, email us. So if you're interested in either the group critique or yeah, the group critique or the one-on-one session that we have available, but also Julie and I have offered if you want to go even deeper, we offered our 6 sessions at a pretty reduced price for we can do the 6 sessions split between me and Julie, and up to 10,000 words of critiquing. Yeah, Carrie put in the chat here, not $48. Yeah, we had a conversation earlier today that I like eights, but no, but I put, but we put no. You get a big discount there, Carrie is 47. So yeah.
Too funny. Oh, and of course, if you wanna choose to work with Jesse or choose to work with me, that's fine too. We don't, we don't need to split that one if you like one of us over the other. No, I'm just kidding. If you think that one of us might have more input than the other.
All right, I'm gonna put it in the chat here, all the options here. But yeah, let's go ahead and do some general questions. We have a good 10 minutes left, so let me go and stop sharing here. And yeah, we have some time here. So has this been helpful for you guys? Good.
Sounds like Sally got a lot of words going
Yeah.
on there. Prompts quite crazy.
Yeah, raise your hand if you want to share anything. I mean, we love feedback as well.
Mhm.
We're just we love what we do. But yeah, we love feedback and any questions and answers about either hiring us one-on-one or in a group or any questions you have. Sally was first to raise her hand, and then we have Lisa next.
So first thing, I think we should all put in the chat our marks out of 10 for this workshop. So if you think it was absolutely amazing, feel free to put 12 out of 10 because that's how my
It's not
maths works.
possible. You can't do 12.
It is. See, look, Kerry's with me. She's hung out with me for long enough that we think you're a 12 out of 10. So we
Oh,
think that this has been a fantastic workshop. Obviously, Holy Spirit has been all over this workshop. It's been phenomenal. So I'm like, okay, God, is this the call you're giving me? He's asked me to, while Jesse and I are doing Beauty for Ashes on the other side of the fence, as it were, he's asked me to write a book of the transformations for clients, like write their stories. And my story writing isn't that flash yet. I've clearly just got to do some exercise on it. I think you two are the two that I need to get the wisdom and insight from. So I'm all in for your 999 offer. I'm also in for everything else. So if it's a $47 or $48, the 6-7, it's now 7-8. Just
So
putting it out
funny,
there.
yeah. You bring up a good point, Sally, and we didn't mention that. Yeah, if you buy the higher ones, you get the deep dive as well, of course. If you buy and even if you do something with just Julie, a one-on-one, you can come to the deep dive as well. So the 199 includes the deep dive as well. So that's your answer. So yeah, awesome, Sally. I'm looking forward to it.
and FYI, we, have several members in the room, but, I do oversee Cascade Christian Writers, and Jesse's on our staff team as well, and we've got a few members here, and that's also an ongoing organization for people all over. We have conferences and critique groups and monthly member circles and a lot of good fellowship. And so if you're thinking of writing on an ongoing basis, more than just your legacy, or even want support for that, just know that that is available. I can put that in the
Yeah,
chat.
Cass, I'll put in the chat here. We actually have this month, if we have some things for members as far as like helping you enter. We have a member circle that helps you enter what was it, a contest. We have that coming up this month, but also we have a online. Yeah, it will work overseas for
Yes.
you. We do have an online workshop, not a workshop, a conference in
Spring
March.
conference is
Yeah,
online.
there
And
you
yes,
go.
we have two from England, I believe, or we did at one point, and one from Japan. So yes, absolutely. And it looks like Lisa has a question too. I'm putting the URL out there.
Yeah, Lisa.
You're
We
muted,
both we
Lisa.
both put the link in the chat, so that's perfect.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Whoops. We sure
No, that's
didn't.
good. Lisa, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question, or I'll ask you to. Give me 1 second. Here you go. There you go.
Very, thanks so much. Jesse, you mentioned right away at the beginning of the session the stages, 7 stages. Can you tell us those stages again, please?
Yeah, and I'll put in the link in the chat to the calling journey from Tony Stolfus. But it's yeah, so it's usually the stages after salvation. So he wrote it from a Christian perspective. And generally, if you get saved later in life, the stages go quicker. But he says the first stage is usually natural promotion. You get upgraded pretty fast. And then you go into like a a valley season. I think it's a valley of dependence, I believe, where we kind of find our dependence on God. That's usually teenage years where we're realizing, oh, this is actually our self. If you get saved at an early age, and then you go into a desert season, and then there's another valley of wholeness, I believe. And so there's a lot of deserts and valleys early on, which is kind of funny. But then right around stage 5 is when you're entering your calling. So about 35 or 40 years old is usually what he says. And then you enter another valley of identity, 50, 55, 60-ish. And then the last stage is a conversion stage, where you kind of bring it all together. So yeah, I'll put the book. It's called The Calling Journey by Tony Stolfus. It's a really good one. Any other questions? Beth says, I've enjoyed this and it's been really helpful. The century section struck me in a capturing an important time. Beth, do you want to share even live on that? That's amazing.
I'm kind of in the dark, but um uh well, my son died in a very tragic and violent situation in my abusive marriage. So what I'm trying to do is go back and remember um th not just my son who died, but all of my children when they were little. But when you were talking about like the smells and the sounds, that will help me in drawing some of that out
Yeah.
because it's difficult to write about, but it's important because he needs to be remembered, and nobody
Mhm.
likes to talk about what happened because it's painful. So if I can draw those things out and write about them, then not just the difficult things, but the good memories too.
Yeah.
That'll help those in my family to be able to remember him. You
Well
know,
said, Beth. Yeah, thank
thank
you for
you.
that. Because yeah, it's the good memories too. I know my story kind of made a little bit of a heavy tone,
Well, no,
but
mine
no,
usually is very heavy.
oh, but
So,
I love it, Beth, for sharing that. Yeah, but it can like yeah, your story is very valuable to share, and like you said, the goods and the bads, and this is something that we all like. That's my heart with this. We have important stories to share, and we have heavy ones. We also have light ones. We have fun ones, because of who we are very complex and amazing people. Um, and part of it also is that you can tell your whole story, or you can tell parts of stories. Maybe you just want to tell a travel story. That's still a legacy of like all my travels or all my favorite things. Like you can kind of categorize this, and obviously that will go deeper into coaching. We can help you categorize how you want to pull it all together, whether it's a single letter or a whole book. Both Julie and I are amazing at that. And yeah, we'd love to walk that journey with you or anybody on the call today. Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. Any other last questions before we kind of wrap up, and we'll have Julie end us in prayer, but we have time for maybe just a few more questions or maybe one, I don't know, or comments. Julie, do you have any final words for us, Julie, before we kind of end?
You guys are great. This was a great class. This is our first time teaching this class and we're thinking we might want to teach it maybe, I don't know, we're thinking once a year or so,
Yeah.
but thank you for being a great group for that. And do let us know if you can think of anything that maybe should be added or improved upon or anything else. But we appreciate you. Thank you for your time.
Oh yeah, and we will send out a follow-up email, maybe not today, maybe tomorrow or the
Tomorrow.
next day,
Yeah.
or yeah, probably tomorrow, with all the different information, and opportunities for the deep dives. if you guys, yeah, come to the deep dive. It's amazing. Critique something. We'll help you. We're both really good at critiquing. We'll give you information on how to do that, and yeah, looking forward to just hearing from all you guys.
Definitely.
And
All
we
right.
say too, we can have the recording available for those who didn't weren't here, and we haven't talked about this, but you can maybe share it if you have somebody that you know that is interested who is writing something. We'll be able to share that, and then they can come to the deep dive too if they needed to as well. Like it's open, and so if you have anybody you know that hey, you got to watch this recording, and they can kind of come, or they can get the discounts as well if they want to pay the discounted price for Julie or for the 6 sessions. Anybody watching this will get that same discount. So, um, okay, yeah. I think that's it. Julie, you want to pray us out?
Sure, we'll do. God, thank you for this time, and I just thank you for the opportunity to fellowship, even when it's online. And we're grateful for the learnings, God, and the reminder that our lives are important, our stories are important, our history is important, our legacy is important. And yes, we have some control over that, God. So we just pray for wisdom as each one of us goes off and thinks a bit and maybe journals a bit about what that means for them in particular. And we thank you for enlightening us, Lord. We appreciate you and love you and are grateful for your presence in our lives. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. You're amazing.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay.
Take
Good job,
care.
Jesse.
Change the world. Yes.
Thank you. It was great.
Thank you.
Have a lady in the waiting room.
Yeah, I think it's